Hi, it's Jonathan from Behind the Build, and I wanted to make you aware of a change. What you'll see in the title of the releases is Behind the Build AD and Behind the Build ID. Behind the Build AD is architectural design. Anything associated with architectural design will be released on Mondays. Behind the Build ID is interior design. Anything to do with interior design and its consultants will be released on Thursdays. I would ask kindly that as you hear this, if you could, to find the rating system in the format that you listen and consume Behind the Build, and please give it 5 stars. It helps us with overall engagement and visibility with a new audience. With that said, please enjoy today's episode. Welcome to Behind the Build. I am your host, Jonathan Jacobs, and I have with me today someone who's become actually like a pretty close friend over the last, I don't know, what is it, 6 months? Right?
Yeah.
6 months? To describe her as an individual, highly motivated, highly reputable, having won REAC awards, OAA awards, Wallpaper, A&N magazine. She's won the emerging practice. She's won. I don't even know. The best way to describe the awards that she's won is you'll just have to look in the description of the episode today, because today I have with me someone that I've looked forward to having in front of me for quite some time, and that is Anya Moryoussef. Anya, thanks for coming.
Thanks for having me.
So I'm trying to even think about how we met and what that looked like. The reason that I laughed at the beginning was because Anya kind of shot me a look like, I can't believe we're doing this finally. I have a lot of admiration for her. She doesn't know what I was going to say when this thing all started, but I have a lot of admiration for her. She is a powerhouse of a woman, started her own practice, and we're going to get into everything about you. But the admiration, there are some people out there that have, I would call it, moral clarity, and she would be one of those people that I would define as having probably some of the clearest lens as to her own sense of moral clarity, and that stems from her experience. It stems from her teaching at U of T and at Waterloo. And I'm going to stop talking now and say thank you for joining me on what is now we're going to call Behind the Build AD. So it's architectural design.
Super. Thanks.
Sorry for that long-winded intro.
That's okay.
So before we get into this, I want to take a quick moment because today's conversation is really about people, relationships, and what it means to work with care and intention over a long period of time. Kaplan's Appliances is a third-generation family-run business, and that matters. There's a precedent there. There's an understanding of service that only comes from being in it for decades, from working with people across generations and knowing that trust is built slowly. What I appreciate about Kaplan's is that everyone who walks through the door is treated as a client. That might be an architect, a designer, a builder, or a homeowner, but the approach is the same. The entire service model is built around listening, guiding, and supporting good decisions, not pushing product. They work with premium partners like Sub-Zero, Wolf, Miele, La Cornue, Jenn-Air, Fisher & Paykel, and their outdoor offering includes Urban Bonfire, DCS, Kalamazoo, and more. The showroom is laid out in a way that all actually helps you understand what you're looking at and how it fits into real life. If you schedule properly, you can even have a meal prepared in-house by one of their chefs and experience the appliances the way they're meant to be used, while you're making decisions that will live with you in your home for years. That kind of experience tells you a lot about how a company thinks. If you want to learn more, you can email me directly at Jonathan, JONATHAN, @waldenhomes.ca, or head to the liner notes and you can find a link to Kaplan's directly. And with that, let's get into the conversation with Anya. Tell me about the beginning of your life. What was it like?
The beginning of my life.
Get into it. Please tell me. Tell me a little bit about you and your interests as a child.
So I was born in Toronto. My parents were both immigrated here in the late 60s, early 70s. My mother from South Africa, my father is from Morocco. And I was an odd child, I think. I mean, I was severely introverted and extremely shy and very antisocial, and I like to be alone all the time. And yeah, I mean, I think that person still lives inside of me, but things are different on the outside, maybe. Yeah.
That's fair.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. Okay. I have things to say on that for myself, but I guess this
Mhm.
isn't about me, thankfully. And so what were you interested in when you were trying to find that alone time? Like what did you like to do for yourself?
I mean, I just liked I was artistic. I liked drawing. I liked making things. I just liked playing by myself and talking to myself and just being with myself.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have memories of playing in my closet, in the pantry, in the back of my dad's shoe store. I was very happy on my own.
Okay.
Yeah.
A couple questions on that topic.
Mhm.
Okay, so one, you talked about you like to color and draw. Actually, you said draw.
Mhm.
So were you drawing with like a single HB
Um,
pencil, or
no, I mean,
was this
I wasn't a prodigy. I wasn't an artistic prodigy or anything. I mean, my mother was an artist, a trained artist, and
in what?
she was primarily a sculptor,
Okay.
and but was extremely far more exceptional than I will ever be. But in drawing, painting, and sculpture was eventually her medium. And
But it's okay. So because there's different kinds of you can sculpt different things.
like clay.
Okay, clay.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
And yeah, so I think she fostered that in me. Her father also painted, so there was obviously an interest there in sort of artistic expression at that scale.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I don't have specific memories of what I drew with or anything. I think we have some relics of crayon or acrylic paint or whatever it is. My mom did a lot of collage with me. I remember her like cutting stuff out with me and sort of setting all of that up. And I remember also my mother would draw the outline, like she would draw figurative things, and then I would color them or paint them in, that kind of thing.
Did you ever work on? I say this because like I have distinct memories of this. Is when I studied art. The blending of color with your crayons.
Yes, the whole color theory thing. Yes,
Yeah.
that's actually one of the images that I'm remembering, which I kind of quite love this. I don't know where it landed. Actually, it was my grandmother's house, but it was a drawing. I did 3 balloons, like a red balloon, a yellow balloon, and a blue balloon,
Yeah.
and they're each overlapping one another, and then you get that sort of blend of color in
Yeah.
the middle. I don't know if that was like something somebody instructed me to do or whether I came up with that, but
You found your own.
it's
creative
quite lovely
passage.
there. Yeah. It's basically, like color theory with some strings on the end of the bubbles. But yeah.
It is like a great joy. I just actually started. I don't know why I'm digressing into this, but like I just started. I think I even shared with you on Instagram this hyper realist pencil artist I started following, who's like unbelievable, spends like hours upon hours.
Writing
hours.
like text.
No, not writing text. No, this is like hyper realism of drawing. Like he's taking individual tiny little strokes with his pencil of all of the individual knits of a sweater.
Right. Yeah. That takes a
like
certain kind of
maniacal
mind. Yeah. And patience and stamina and all of that.
So
yeah.
You weren't doing that. You weren't doing hyper realism at a young age.
I mean, no, I was.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So beyond that, you said that you would find yourself like immersed in having like this love of being in your dad's shoe store.
Well, I think I was left in my dad's shoe store all the time because that was childcare.
Okay.
And so I would hang out in the back room, like in the stock room. And that was just full of cavernous spaces because you've got this just corridors of shoe boxes. And then there was like a loft area in this particular store that he had when I was really little, where I would like sit on this kind of balcony and play there. I mean, I can't quite remember what that playing looked like, but I can imagine it's like similar to what my daughter does when she's alone, which is just fiddle with like something small and just make something out of like a piece of tissue and an
Yeah.
elastic and yeah. But I could be alone with very little to stimulate me for hours on end. Like I was more than happy. Yeah. I got into some trouble in the back room too,
Yeah, but
futzing with stuff.
you're a kid. You
But
should.
yeah, I shot myself in the hand with a staple gun once, I remember. Yeah.
Is the staple still there? Did they get it out?
No, no, it's not still there.
Okay.
But, yeah.
And so were you involved in any after school programs, and what were some of the courses that you took in school as you kind of matured as a student that you found really interested?
I mean, my mom put me in art classes and
Okay.
craft classes, and I did like art. There was this amazing art camp in the summer called Summer Studio where you could like pick the courses you wanted to take on a
Okay.
2-week, like a 2-week circuit. And so I think it was like a half day. And like I absolutely loved that. I did like mask making was one of my greatest memories in Summer Studio.
Paper mache.
No, there was like there was paper mache, but that we also made these masks out of like reeds and wire. Like it was some pretty sophisticated stuff. And I think there were like real artists in the community who had like, special skills in certain areas. It's probably similar to what Harborfront runs now.
Okay.
And so she enrolled me in that kind of stuff. And then she also put me in drama and dance classes because I was so introverted. She was trying to, I was always told, like, you've got to come out of your shell. We're going to get you out of your shell. But I absolutely hated that stuff and just like would probably put up a fight until I didn't have to do it again. So drama in particular was like, I found really excruciating. Yeah.
Okay. So the other courses that you liked in school, what did they look like?
I mean, I always I loved math and physics in particular. Into high school, I really, really got into physics. I always enjoyed English. I always loved writing. Yeah, and art. I was never like a biology kid or geography. Those were things somehow that didn't. History. I think I just generally liked things that were more abstract. I had a very challenging way finding myself into things like history and geography. And I think about that a lot. I think maybe that's a function of the way they were taught, because then when I ended up in the School of Waterloo, the University of Waterloo School of Architecture, and part of that curriculum, the sort of core curriculum, was something called iconography, cultural history. Like I suddenly came to love history, but I think it was because it was presented to me through a totally different lens. And that's when I realized, oh, there was a missed opportunity there. Yeah. And then my husband's a historian. So I now can see how viewing that through a totally different lens can make the world of difference, basically, in terms of interest. But anyways, yeah. So my interests were in the typical kind of stuff, math, art, and language to a degree. Yeah.
Okay. And did you feel like when you were in high school, you were coming out of the shell that your parents wanted you to come out of, or
No, not at all. Not at all. I was a loner. I was a loner, and I was like counting down the minutes till I could get out of there. Yeah, I think at some point I sensed that there was like a bigger world, and maybe I could find my place in that world, because I couldn't find my place in the world I was in. Yeah.
Worth noting, just say, because so we went to the same high school, along with like a few other talented people in this industry.
Yeah. But none of us knew, or at least I didn't know any of you guys.
Well, you're a couple years older.
Yeah.
So after me was Gabriel Fain and Jen Cutlitz from Studio AC and Gabriel Fain Architects. And then you have yourself, and then there's like some guy who runs a podcast now that came out of there.
Yeah.
But I find it interesting that school produced some people that are now helping influence both res and single family and multifamily. I find it interesting. But so you left there. Did you know when you were at at high school that you wanted to go into architecture? Did you know it at that point? Was it your main selection, or did you apply to a few different programs?
I only applied to Waterloo because I was encouraged by my high school art teacher to apply to Waterloo. She thought I would like it because of the cultural history component as well.
Who was it? Do you remember?
Her name was Marilyn Berkovich. Did you have her?
Yeah.
Oh, she's
Berkovich.
she's a good friend of mine still.
Still?
Yeah.
Oh, this is
We're close. We're close.
Anya and I talk all the time.
Yeah.
This is something I didn't.
She was the witness at my wedding, my marriage. Yeah.
She would 100% remember me.
She's great. Okay, I'll tell her. Actually, I was just thinking, I was like, oh, I should mention all these people to her because they probably went through her art class, and she was selling architecture for sure, for better or worse. Because she had some very close friends who are, very well-known architects in the city, and she's an incredible woman. I'll mention your name to her. That's really funny. I'll tell her to listen to this.
Oh, that's I'm inspired.
Yeah.
Okay. So you knew this. You applied to Waterloo, and
I applied my second choice, because I was told it was very hard to get into Waterloo. My second choice was I was going to go to U of T for physics with a minor in art history, which I kind of would still like to do. That sounds like
you want to go back to you consider?
No, I mean, for a long time I thought I would always go back to school because I really loved school. But now I think there are other avenues. If I wanted to pursue that part of myself, I might just, do it independently.
Yeah.
But I loved school. I did not want to leave school. That's for sure. Yeah. I mean, other than the social aspect of high school, but I loved school in general. Yeah.
What's funny is like that there was a show that came out years ago called Freaks and Geeks. Do you remember that?
No, it sounds familiar, but no.
It was Judd Apatow's like first real, I guess, big release. Mm-hmm. This is with I think Seth Rogen was in it, Jason Segel's in it, James Franco's in it, among a whole bunch of others, and it defines what our era and previous, mm-hmm. call it the previous 10 years worth mm-hmm. of school would have looked like.
Oh, I see the translation and contemporary cultural terms of what right.
The social anxieties,
right.
The conforming, all that kind of stuff.
Right.
It was such a perfect example, a prime example of it, and worth watching. There's only one season. Outside of that, a show that you didn't watch, but defines it all. What was it like for you when you went to Waterloo? Did you feel like you had now kind of arrived to a place that you felt understood, or did you still feel like somewhat of?
I think I started tentatively, but so two other people from Marilyn Berkovich's high school art class, my high school art class, ended up in that class at Waterloo. So it was three of us.
Who?
A woman named Aisha Hassan, and she lives in Turkey now.
Yeah.
And then Herman Ho was the third person. And so that was nice because there was a few of us that knew each other, and we were all, everybody's sort of what is this place that we've, heard all of this mythology about, and what are we in for? And then, but I do think leaving high school and then leaving home was really big for me. I did suddenly feel like that sense of independence and autonomy was the greatest feeling I have ever felt. And I think maybe it was just the pressure of unmet expectations or something were gone. And I could just then it was like a second chance to just be who I was and see what happened. And I think, none of that was conscious, of course, but I think that I really had the time of my life and, made a lot of friends. Our class was quite close knit. And it was just I don't know if every class at Waterloo is like this, but it's just everybody's kind of offbeat in their way. And, or at least it's such a mix of people, such an incredible mix of people that somehow defies at least the sort of the social classes of high school. So yeah, it was really great. And I think I found my people there, I guess, to some degree. But I think it's not it was just that I found myself, just that sounds really cliche, but I
Why?
just was able to
Why?
come into myself in a way that I hadn't felt able to before.
Right.
So yeah, I definitely, it was wonderful in that respect. And that may have happened anywhere, frankly. It just just like a new environment and a new start in
Yeah.
some ways,
Yeah.
Mhm.
It's like also it's like a stage of life, right?
Sure,
Like you're just
exactly.
yeah.
And I think going away to university for that reason is like really wonderful. And like, I mean, Waterloo was just this like tiny, small town. The university was very small at that time. The School of Architecture is even smaller. So you were just in this, like, in some ways, it was this real bubble, but it was this, a bubble that you could be totally autonomous in. And it was wonderful, I think, for all the right reasons. Yeah.
I mean, it sounds amazing.
Hmm.
Something that keeps coming up in this conversation is people, trust, and the way relationships evolve over time. Anya and I have gotten to know each other over the last 6 to 8 months, and we spent a lot of time on the phone talking about practice and products and operations and how decisions actually get made. Recently, she reached out to me looking for an introduction to the Doors because they were one of our go-to window and door partners. We've worked with the Doors for years, and over that time, we've collaborated with them on projects alongside Drew Mandel, SMPL Design Studio, and Eisen Architecture. Those projects have been highly successful, not just visually, but in how smoothly they've come together. The doors and windows look incredible, but just as important as the profiles, the range of sizes, the color options, the quality of the shop drawings, and a crew that knows how to show up and install properly. There's a real understanding there of what it means to be excellent at your craft. And that comes from more than 20 years of experience, from building a brand that cares deeply about quality, service, and long-term relationships. It's very much in line with what we're talking about in this episode. If you want to learn more about working with the Doors, they offer a wider range of products, including Rayners, Schuko, Aluplast, and more. You can email me directly at Jonathan, that's JONATHAN at waldenhomes.ca, or head over to the liner notes and you can connect with them directly. Now, back to Anya. And so, what I didn't ask you, I guess, in any of this, because you had mentioned that your parents were not from here.
Hmm.
Did you have the opportunity throughout the course of all of your elementary, junior, high school, university period to be able to travel back home? Like, did you ever go back to
No.
Morocco to go see your dad's family or anything?
His family was here and my mother's
Okay.
family was here.
Okay.
And both of my parents were the youngest in their family.
Okay.
And neither of them ever went back. My mother has still never been back to South Africa.
Okay.
And my father only recently went back to Morocco in the last 5 years.
Okay.
Which was not necessarily typical of other immigrants, but I feel like for them it was, I think maybe they didn't want to see what the change that had taken place, or
Right.
yeah, I don't know. I guess they left during a very formative time in their lives, right? In their late teens, early 20s.
Mm-hmm.
My dad's since gone back and he's thrilled and he's now basically spending the winters there if he can. I think for my mother, it's much more complicated. So I don't see her ever going back, although I would love to go. So I've actually never been to either of those places.
Okay.
And would love to do both and hope to soon. Yeah.
I guess my question there just stems to, are you able to have experienced that type of culture? In the,
I mean, I've experienced that type of culture, but transplanted
every single day.
I mean, look, my father grew up in a very small, very specific community. There's Sephardic Jews from Morocco. And so they have a very tight knit community, and so they all landed in Montreal. They all still live in Montreal. He was sort of the self-proclaimed black sheep, I would say. So he kind of left the fold,
okay,
and is the only one who married outside of Moroccan Jewry.
Yeah.
And so I didn't grow up in that world, but we would go back often or often enough, and then I would be fully immersed in that world, and it's another universe.
World.
Yeah.
Okay. So, I mean, outside of family, going back to the experience that you have at Waterloo.
Yeah.
And I guess in many ways, what I was asking about there, you kind of get when you go on that exchange program with Waterloo, where you get to go and experience Rome.
Yep.
So what was it like for you? I'm gonna kind of move even past that experience of going to Rome,
Yeah.
but more so as you got to see the world differently in that bubble.
Yeah.
What do you feel like it did for you as just, I don't know, as a human, like to see the world in a completely different way now?
You mean through traveling during
Yeah,
co-op
yeah,
terms and so
yeah,
on?
yeah.
I mean, well, I mean, it does a lot. I think, I mean, that's a big
Uh,
question.
I agree with you.
I don't,
Let me
yeah,
redefine it.
okay.
Let me redefine it from like a textural standpoint, you know. And what I mean by that, I mean like when you're walking through Toronto
Mm-hmm.
growing up, it is
Mm-hmm.
not the same as what you're going to experience from like texture. You run your hand along that wall
Mm-hmm.
in Rome, and
Mm-hmm.
like you are touching
Mm-hmm.
ancient buildings.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, I think it's definitely a lesson when you realize like what a young place we live in and what a comfortable place we live in and maybe what a conservative place we live in and all of those things. Like to imagine growing up in Rome amongst like, ruins and layers of history and as is the case in many European countries. Or I lived in Istanbul for one term, and that was an incredible experience. You think the sheer like density of population, and things just function differently, social norms are different. I think, yeah.
What was it like living in Istanbul?
I mean, that was awesome. That was a long time ago. So it was a really exciting. I mean, things have shifted politically in Turkey since then,
Yeah,
but it was like, I mean, Istanbul, I'm to this day is like an incredibly cosmopolitan kind of European city.
yeah.
And I mean, one of the best friends I've ever made, I made during the time that I was there. He still lives there. And
What was the reason for being there?
for a co-op term.
It was a
So
co-op term. Okay.
it was a co-op term, yeah. So my friend, I was always like up for like, where's the like, you know, it was an incredible time to be a co-op student at Waterloo because it was very easy and very cheap to travel. It's not like it is now. And it was also like the economy was good, it was stable, it was generally safe to travel. So I remember at the end of term, we would just go to like whatever it was, at the plaza where they sell plane tickets. And we would just go and like buy a plane ticket. And it was like $400. I remember like a one-way plane ticket to London. Right. And so like three of us went and bought a one-way plane ticket to London. And then we just like printed up a bunch of our CVs and like got on the plane. And like, and the first person to find a job like signed a lease. And then the other two people just lived with them until they found jobs. And inevitably everybody found a job. Like
Wild. Can you imagine?
it can't happen today. That's
Imagine
why
your
I was
daughter coming
really
to you
lucky
today.
time. It was a really lucky time. And honestly, my parents, like, I feel like they didn't even like they didn't even know where I was half the time. Like, I would just be like, I'll be back in 4 months. I'm going to London. And then, when I was in London, I would go all over the place as well. And they didn't know necessarily.
They know now.
But it was, yeah, I mean, it was an amazing time in that respect. Like we didn't even have cell phones, right? Like
Yeah. You also didn't have you didn't have back
we
then.
didn't have internet. We had internet cafes we had to go to.
Exactly.
So,
What I was
and we
going
had
to go
like,
to is print out your maps to know where you're going.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we
MapQuest.
didn't even have printout maps. Like you had like a book, like you had A to Z London, and you had your
Burleys.
bus map,
Yeah.
and yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah. So
Crazy.
it was an
think back
amazing
on,
time
right?
for that. So I went, I went to London a couple times, and then my friend Aisha, who I had been in Marilyn Berkovich's high school class with, she was Turkish, or her parents were Turkish, and she just came to me one time and was like, "Hey, my parents have friends who are architects there, and they're willing to have us there and I was like, I don't speak Turkish. She's like, "Don't, it's fine, don't worry about it." So we just like went to Turkey, and we lived with a friend of her parents who had an apartment like right in Taksim, which is like the kind of main sort of busy neighborhood in in Istanbul. And yes, so we lived in an apartment there, and we made friends, and one of them had a Jeep, and we just like every weekend would like drive along the coast, and like it was just like it was magical. It was really magical time. And then we'd come back to school.
And were you able to draw on these experiences when you were applying yourself in school to different things that you were now going to start designing as a part of the curriculum, or was it more so that these were just fulfilling your like personal requirements more so than your like professional?
Yeah, I see them as like, they're life experiences and they're professional experiences in terms of like, on the ground, like how does an office run? Although obviously in Istanbul versus London versus Toronto, there's going to be huge differences.
Yeah.
But I think just seeing different cultures, and I would say I think it's more informative maybe insofar as being able to like look back at your own city or your own self or your own way of life more objectively or critically, right? Because now you have a wider lens on it.
Right.
So, you spend enough time. I didn't sort of live in Toronto for many years because I was in Waterloo and then, overseas, and then Waterloo and then overseas. And then by the time I came back to Toronto, I was like, kind of an adult. And so it looked and felt different suddenly. And also, I hadn't really looked at it properly for a long time. Yeah.
Right. So how long had you spent overseas in these opportunities for co-op and working experience?
I was at school for 7 years, and I did my first co-op was in Toronto, and then I had one other co-op in there. So I had in the 7 years that I was in school, I spent 8 months in Toronto in that 7 years.
Wow. That's crazy. Okay.
Well, and then after I graduated, I moved back to England for 3 years. So in 10 years, I spent, let's say, like 2 4-month stints in Toronto.
Yeah, it's literally like 1 year of school.
Other than visiting. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So even in that time, Toronto also changed significantly.
Huge.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Huge.
Mm-hmm.
You're talking like this is
early,
between early 2000s.
Exactly. Like 99 to 2009.
Yeah. Like there was a massive boom happening in Toronto at that time. And then you come back and it's the tail end of the recession.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, it was the economic crisis.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what was it like then returning? You come back having been immersed in all of these like cultural hubs globally, and you come back to Toronto and it's completely different. You're completely different. Like you're completely a different person. You found yourself, you're like confident, and you're like, you have a much better understanding of like kind of where you are and how you want to be. You're a different person than who you talked about and described about wanting to be in a closet. Because now you right? You're playing right?
Yeah.
And so what was it like? Were you shocked?
Well, yeah, I actually did have, coming back from London, it was a bit of culture shock to some degree. And it was I feel like it was like in both directions. And so far as like, I was like, wow, Toronto really feels like, kind of a village, like a 1970s village. But then I would go to like grocery stores. Like I remember I'll tell you the biggest culture shock I had was when I went to the Loblaws that opened up in Maple Leaf Gardens. And I remember thinking like my friends, I was sending videos back to my friends in London, because I don't think they could ever wrap their heads around like the abundance and the amount of space that you could have for like groceries.
Yeah.
Was like that whole thing was just wild.
I still remember that.
And
we're gonna turn Maple Leaf Gardens into a
but just any big grocery store, like any Canadian grocery, like any, so like any of them are would be crazy to imagine in London, that amount of real estate being taken up with like that amount of produce or,
Yeah.
yeah. So
So what did you do? So what was your first move when you came back to Toronto? Did you know where you wanted to work, or did you want to start figuring that out?
no, I was very much like, I had like parents who got up every day, like rain or shine, sick or well, like no matter, and like you go and you do your job. So the idea of like not having a job for a day or like it was like the time was ticking. So I was very much like, I gotta hit the ground running. I gotta get a job. I gotta get a mentor. I want to get my license. And so, yeah, so I interviewed in, there were a handful of places that were hiring at the time. And I ended up in what was then a very small practice called Super Cool.
Okay.
And there were 4 of us, including me at that time in that practice. And, like I had come from a tiny practice in London. So being in a tiny practice and the owners lived in the same building, which was also the situation, ironically, that I was in London. That was all comfortable and familiar
Right.
for me. Yeah.
And so what did you start off working on? Were you working on single family residential, or were you working?
Yeah, I worked on a
on?
small cottage. So I remember I went in for the interview and Megan Andre showed me a sort of beautiful little wooden model of a cottage that was in design development. And they were just sort of like, this is what you would be drawing. Do you want to draw this? And I remember I was just like really enamored with this beautiful little object. And I was like, absolutely, I'll do this. But I didn't quite know that I would be able to, well, I knew I'd figure it out, but I was also just sort of committing to something that I'd never done before to some degree.
Take the dice and roll them.
Yep.
Right.
Yep. So that was it. And it was that was also a kind of incredible opportunity for me because I had like the one-on-one mentorship of 2 incredibly ambitious, capable, talented architects. And I knew I hadn't had a lot of experience in construction drawings or detailing or even construction administration. Like I had always kind of been pinholed into the front end, and I had also let myself kind of live there because I was comfortable with that. And so I had decided like I want to throw myself into the kind of back end so I can learn, and they were comfortable allowing me to do that. And so that's how I learned. And it was a steep curve, but it was extremely valuable. Yeah.
Nice.
It's hard to get that kind of mentorship now.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
They've also grown a little bit.
I'm just saying in general in the industry. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
they're a huge practice now, but
Yeah.
in general, I think it's hard to find that kind of mentorship because the economic demands of running a practice are extremely challenging. So, yeah.
So how long did you stay at Super Cool?
So I was there for about 5 years.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And then you eventually went out on your own.
Yeah. I mean, I left Super Cool, not with the intention of going out on my own, but to just sort of figure out what my next move was. I wanted to teach. So I left and took a teaching position. And I think I'd always like fantasized about going out on my own, like I think a lot of architects do, but always felt like I don't know enough. Like I don't know enough yet. Don't know
enough about what?
About architecture, about how to every project is unique and every project has unique challenges. And I think what I realized at a certain point is like, you're never gonna know enough. Like, you're always being thrown curveballs and you're always having to deal with situations that you haven't encountered before or challenges that you haven't encountered before. But there's a point at which you can feel like you sort of trust yourself or you have enough of a network or enough of a or you're resourceful enough or you have enough resources at your hand that you can solve the problem. You can get to the end of the problem. You can pull in the right information or advice or whatever it is to solve a problem. So I think when I realized like there was never going to be I was never going to feel ready, you know. And then, I mean, really what happened is a couple of people came and said, oh, hey, do you want to do a job? And so then I had to go get a certificate of practice. And then, and then eventually I was sort of doing it. Yeah. Yeah.
Intentionally and unintentionally at the same time.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So
I was tentative because I was scared of failing at it. Yeah.
I can appreciate that.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things this conversation keeps circling back to is the craft and experience, and that idea of making space feel alive. For me, that connects directly to how I've come to understand Aquanta pools and the biodesign technology they bring forward. These are pools that aren't just boxes in your backyard. They're sculpted environments influenced by an Italian philosophy of design that blends nature and architecture. They use patented structural technology with natural materials like resin, quartz, and sand to create organic shapes that integrate seamlessly with your landscape. You're not just looking at a rectangle of water. You're looking at a space that feels like a beach or a calm lake carved into your property, whether you're on a tight infill lot in the city or at a country house. It's the kind of thing that changes how you experience your outdoors. The gentle shapes, beach entries, sculpted seating, and walk-in zones invite you to use them far more often than a standard pool ever would. I mean, I had one growing up, the standard pool. Here, the technology behind it also improves durability and reduces environmental impact compared to traditional concrete pools, while offering a high degree of customization. So every design is unique to how you live. If you want to learn more about bringing an Aquanta pool to your own landscape, you can email me at Jonathan, Jonathan, at waldenhomes.ca, or head over to the liner notes and you can connect with Yuri at Aquanta directly. And now, back to Anya. So how did you feel about now being the one, because you just said that you want to teach, and prior to that, earlier in our conversation, you talked about a missed opportunity and what you experienced from your history class in high school, and what that meant when you had the right application of that teaching when you went to university. So now, having been involved in teaching, do you ever think about that, about like the way the content that you're bringing forward and how it's being received by the students? Do you
That's a really good question. I mean, I think that I'm typically teaching a design studio. So, they're doing a project and we're sort of working with them through, critique and guidance to develop their own ideas. So
Right.
I think what I would say about that and what I try and do with students is, and frankly, it just comes from my own experience in general, is that they have to sort of find themselves in the project somewhere. They've got to find what like ignites the flame for them. If they're going to be committed to it and they're going to persevere with it and they're going to get the most out of it for themselves, and do their best work. So I think, and I tend to believe that there's sort of a way into anything. You just have to kind of like find what moves you and then try and enter from that sort of tangent or whatever. So that's what I'm often trying to help students do, is figure out, what it is that they really want to explore. I mean, that's what I think all profs are trying to do, but
you say that because I don't know that they are, because if what you experienced, and I know that you're using the word prof, but like what you experienced from the teacher in high school is clearly something different. And it also means that something like Ms. Berkovich did it well enough for you to be able to engage in the medium to pursue it. And it sounds to me like indirectly you've just said you're trying to find the approach with them to be able to get them to engage in the class in a way that they may or may not have been able to do without having that type of a teaching. Because there are people out there that take the role on and want to impose upon others their own ideas and thoughts versus wanting to see someone come up with concepts and themselves.
I mean, look, I was taught at Waterloo, you sort of define the terms of your own project, and
Right.
and I think success or failure is largely defined by, how the work that you produce measures up to the terms that you've set in a way. So I think that's a really excellent and can be a very scary lesson for students. But I think in university, that kind of autonomy of thought and action is really important. Like, you're an adult in the world, you're going to define what the terms of your own success are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So you described it before. You started teaching. You were asked about a project here and there.
Mm-hmm.
You incorporated at one point.
I'm not
Or,
incorporated.
sorry. As I said that, I realized.
Yeah.
So not incorporated. You're sole proprietor.
Yeah, I got a certificate of practice at some
Yes.
point, and I registered a business
Yeah.
and all of those things. Yeah. Yeah.
So what did that look like when that happened?
I mean, I think I was like baby steps. I was sort of like, it was like, I wasn't announcing it. I didn't launch a website. I had standards for myself that I wanted to meet before I was comfortable saying, like, this is what I'm doing. And so I was like, I'm not going to have a website until I have a built project, because I don't want to, I want to put up built work to show that this is the real thing and I can really do this. And I think I needed to prove to myself that I could do it, really. But at a certain point, you just can't be tentative, and you just have to not be scared of failure, and you have to just expose yourself, and so it just happened, I guess. I can't remember all of it, but there was no strategic launch of a practice in any way, Yeah.
I wouldn't have expected that to have been the case.
Mhm.
Given the way you've described
Mhm.
yourself from an early age to doing this, I think it's a pretty and like, who the hell am I? But like, I am who I am. I think it's a pretty incredible thing to be able to go from like wanting to be alone to being able to go out there and do this and work with other people and pull out their ideas and descriptions for what they're looking for in their own projects that they don't even know how to really verbalize or vocalize.
Mhm.
And then go on to become, you get an emerging practice award and you get written up in other publications. And I'm saying this to you because, I think it's important to be able to take pause and recognize the fact that, you can do it and you're doing it, and you're doing it on a really high level.
Mhm.
I'm just saying that for you.
Mhm. No, that's kind of you. I mean, I think what's wild is that for a long time I thought, like, oh, this is so like not me to be like loving like private residential work. Like, you're dealing with people all the time. But
Yeah.
but what I've actually come to realize that I've always been very fascinated by people. And maybe that's because I felt like I didn't understand people, but I've always been fascinated by people and kind of endlessly interested in people and character studies and so on. And I think that I know that I really love those. Like, I love my relationships with my clients. I love getting to know people on that level. And I love having, pretty often intimate discussions with them about, life and their personal history and the way they want to live and so on. And so, I think that's definitely inside of me. It's just maybe there are different aspects of social life that I don't love as much.
Yeah, but that's not uncommon.
Yep.
It's not. So you just went in and described what I was going to ask you next.
Yeah.
And that is, in your practice, you focus on single family residential.
Yeah, primarily. I mean, I think, I would be, for me, the type, it's not about project type. It's about client, because that relationship is so important. And I think to some degree, it's important that it's sort of fulfilling for both parties, because the process is long for an architecture project. And that relationship is important. So it's the client and then the potential of the project itself, which is exciting to me. I think that I definitely prefer to work at a sort of, smaller scale. But
Define what do you mean by smaller scale?
Like at the level of a house, like
Okay.
that scale of work is
Okay.
definitely appealing to me. Rather than, like a much larger, I mean, I've worked on large institutional projects, in other practices and so on, but I like to find myself in the sort of smaller moments. And then there's an immediacy to to the trajectory of a smaller project that is definitely satisfying. I'm not like necessarily a patient person, though I'm a persistent person. And so yeah, I mean, I've done some renovations at the University of Toronto, dental clinic, some feasibility work for a City of Toronto. So there's a wide range there.
Hmm.
But for a small practitioner in Toronto, the bread and butter is going to be residential, and I do really, really love that domestic realm. Yeah.
It can be challenging. It can be definitely challenging. The difference between dealing with a leadership team or
Hmm.
a board or developer versus the homeowner,
Hmm.
emotion
I mean, I think
completely
what I've learned
changes.
is I think I have a lot of bandwidth for people,
Hmm.
but I have very little bandwidth for bureaucracy and bureaucratic processes. So I think that makes sense.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. And so, what was the actual year that you legitimized your practice?
It was 2016.
2016.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're going. Right. So this is going to be released in your 10th year.
Yep.
That's exciting.
Yep. 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 I didn't even realize that was coming up. Yep.
Wow. Yeah.
Yep.
There you go.
Yep. 10 years. Oh my God. I know.
I think it's pretty amazing. And projects in terms of location of projects. I know that you have a number of them that are in Toronto, and where else? Like, do you feel like you're tied to a certain region, or is it more so client
Um,
and general project
no, it's
that
just
you care
client
more about?
general project. Like we have a project currently in design that's in Georgian Bay. We've worked in Algonquin, Mulmer, and Toronto. All over the GTA.
Is there a location that you've dreamt of being able to design for?
No,
No.
no.
Okay. Is there a project that you've always dreamt of having that you have not yet had?
No, I mean, I don't know. I feel like I'm just like falling flat here for you, but I'm
You're
not,
not. No,
I'm
you're.
not I'm not a person who has this like big dream of doing a museum or an art gallery, or I am the kind of person who, I get really excited by like the potential of what's like right in front of me often. So I don't know if that
Yeah.
describes things. I mean, look, I do a lot of renovation work, and I love renovation work. I would love to renovate, like a big, beautiful sort of craftsman house or Edwardian and we've had our hands on a couple of things sort of in that zone. But so there are kind of typologies that I would love to kind of like really get in there and
Hmm.
mess around with. But yeah, I'm not like a big I'm not
Yeah, like pie in the sky, dreaming about something
no,
that
I'm
you're
not.
trying
I'm
to.
not that girl.
Right,
Yeah. Yeah.
which is
Yeah.
totally fair.
Yeah.
That goes back to what I was saying before.
Yeah.
You've gone and you've found yourself. You know where
Yeah.
you know where you want to be, and you're in it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I know that there are other people out there that aren't necessarily that they're working their way towards what they want to have,
Yeah.
and they're not at the stage yet where they want to be. And to me, it sounds a lot like you're really comfortable with where you are, and it still really excites you. That is pretty uniquely. I'm trying to find the right word to describe that, but
I mean, I don't know, like I'm never quite satisfied with anything.
well,
So I'm always like there's definitely like I'm always wanting for me my only goal is just for the work to be like better and better and better. And but I don't think that like size or type is the road to that necessarily. That's just about me honing my craft and continuing to do it imperfectly. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think a client telling you at the end that like you've made their dreams come true, right? Like that's, that.
Yeah, it's absolutely wonderful when somebody is, and it's enjoying their space and their quality of life has been improved by it, and they're having an experience they didn't have before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, what does life look like for you outside of practice? What are the things that you like to do? Some hobbies.
Oh God, hobbies. It's like that's the word that like scares me. I don't have hobbies. I have a child who's
Yeah.
7.
Yeah.
So mothering is kind of what I allow to chew up most of that other time.
Yep.
And yeah, I mean, I like thinking. I like writing. I like reading. And
we talked about.
I like talking with my daughter and sort of talking about the world and sort of learning it through her eyes and so on. Like, yeah.
Making personal connections.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Getting to know different people and sort of expanding my world in that respect has been really wonderful the last few years. Yeah.
What about music? You and I talked about.
I have a very eclectic. Well, I have to say, like, so I like a very eclectic range of music, but I'm not. I can't say I'm like fully up to date with. I'm like very it's time stopped for me at a certain point, like it does for people.
We were in the car listening to Zeppelin ramble on.
Yes. Well, my mother was like enormous Zeppelin fan.
Right.
And like she took me to see Page and Plant when I was a teenager. She took me to see the Stones. My mother has she's always been Mick Jagger obsessed. So I grew up in like a classic. Well, my mother was like a classic rock fan. She had tons of classic rock records.
Yep.
Rolling Stones. She wore like, Stones t-shirts. Apparently she was pregnant with me when she saw David Bowie, which is the claim to fame I have. And then my dad was like, he liked these like sort of like, Latin crooners and like Sade, and she's not a Latin crooner, but he loved, yeah. And he loved the Gypsy Kings and like, some of that, like Roy Orbison. Actually, I love Roy Orbison so much. That was a tape we listened to in the car a lot when I was a kid with my dad. So yeah, my mother had like, Q107 classic rock on like 24/7. That was the soundtrack to my life.
It was Dean Blundell used to be the guy.
This was before that even.
This was before Dean. Okay.
Yeah. And like, Psychedelic Sunday and all of that was the soundtrack of my, youth. Actually, I have like did you have to fill out in grade 1 this thing where it's like all about Jonathan or whatever, and it's like my favorite color is my favorite. Well, my mother has that still. She keeps all that stuff. Okay. And mine says my favorite song is, and it says Puff the Magic Dragon and Downtown by Bruce Springsteen.
Put on that playlist.
It's pretty funny. So which is so weird. But I like
I don't think you go wrong with either of those songs.
Yeah. I love old reggae. I love old hip hop.
Yeah.
I love electronic. I mean, I was in high school, I went to a lot of concerts. I was like a grunge kid, so I saw Pearl Jam and Radiohead like more times than I can count.
And Radiohead's touring again right now.
I know. I'm desperate to go.
I just hope that they can come here.
I don't know, but I was actually talking to my husband about how far I would travel to go see them. Maybe we can go together.
I did the same thing with a buddy of mine who when they were here, was it 7 years ago?
Okay.
We went to go see them, and Hugh and I were both just did we do it?
I saw them at Varsity Stadium.
Okay.
Maybe in 1995, 6, 7.
Red Rocks.
Maybe less.
Red Rocks would be amazing.
What's Red Rocks?
Red Rocks in Colorado.
Oh.
It's literally an amphitheater built into the rock.
Oh, yes. I've seen.
Yeah, I've never been there, and I've wanted to go. And just seeing who Radiohead there would be incredible. Yeah. Okay, well, one other thing, you did mention that there's a historian that you have in your life as well.
Yeah.
And some amazing discussions and debates that we've had kind of collective on like speakerphone, and how amazing he is.
Mm-hmm.
And so you described before you have your daughter and you've got Eric.
Hmm.
And how have you found having him involved? Because I know that he has this history.
Hmm.
Do you feel like you're able to draw on any of that in any of your work? Does it ever influence anything within your work?
I mean, for sure, like he's great. I think we're probably at our best when we're talking about ideas and yeah, ideas. I get really excited about ideas. He gets really excited about ideas. So in his work and my work, we yeah, we spend a lot of time talking about those things. He has an architectural history and theory degree, but he's
Yeah,
not a trained architect.
yeah.
So like he can read plans and I mean, sometimes frankly, he's just like a reality check for me. So, you know, like any husband or partner would be who could read a plan, he can look at it and sort of ask some pointed questions and help in decision making and so on.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think when it comes to like bigger kind of philosophical inquiries and that kind of stuff, like it's really wonderful to have him to talk to. Like right now, I'm putting together a lecture. I'm going to lecture at the in Denver at the architecture school there in the spring, and I was thinking of opening up the lecture with talking about this book, Goodnight Moon, that kids, you know,
Yep.
that book? Okay.
Yeah,
Which
of
I've
course.
always been really fascinated by and always thought it would be a really interesting entry point into a lecture. And I started digging into it and doing a bunch of research. And it is kind of super fascinating. And the woman who wrote it was a sort of trailblazer and but anyways, you know, so I'm talking to him about some of the ideas I'm drawing out of it, and then because he's, you know, he's a PhD and he's very, very well educated and he reads tons. You know, he's able to bring up like a handful of essays and critical theories and so on that I, you know, wish I'd learned about at some point but hadn't. And so you know, I dig into those and it sort of opens up new avenues, and the lecture is kind of forming with his yeah, with his kind of knowledge and input. So that's like really wonderful to have. Yeah.
I think it's great. I want to say, so if you're listening now, I would recommend you take a look at Behind the Build on Instagram, where I'll be able to feature the projects that Anya wants to bring forward to exemplify her work and her craft. I have so enjoyed having you on here. I know that we talked about doing this for a while, and yet here we are.
Thanks for your persistence, patience with me.
Of course.
Said no to this for 2 years, and
Well, whatever, you know,
sorry.
here we are. I've really enjoyed it. I appreciate the fact that you've been able to be as candid with about everything as you have, and I will say this on recording, even though we talk about it all the time. But I really do hope that you know, the first part of your career has been so interesting, and I hope that the next phase of your career is as engaging for you as what you've experienced so far, and that you continue to find the excitement in all that you're doing and all that you're going to do, because
Thank you.
I think that we're lucky to have you.
That's very kind of you. That's really kind. Thanks a lot, Jonathan.